All right, ready?
Yep.
And coming to you live from Big Johnson's headquarters.
We're taking a quick stroll down memory lane a few minutes ago as Mike was talking that his basement looks like a Ron John surf shop, and I said I was going to send him some Big Johnson T-shirts to put on the wall to make his to make it kind of give it the full effect. You know, when you go up there and visit, go to one of Mike's awesome camps, you get a spray paint tie-dyed shirt that says Wellness Camp Retreat 2024. You can put that right next to your Panama City Beach Spring Break 1984 shirt that you got from the man. What are the shops down there called? I can't. It's gonna kill me now that I can't remember what they're called.
I don't know.
You can go and you can run into Alvin's Island and grab you a Big Johnson T-shirt, a fishnet, and a hermit crab. All for $6.35.
Yeah, and your T-shirt will you wash it once and it's like a baby size.
Comes out like a brand new Hanes cotton tee that's just total white.
Yeah, I'm like 3 for $10. Sign me up. One wash done.
Seriously, toast.
Thanks for your $10.
Before we move on to bigger and better things, what do you think the average usage is of the boogie board purchased on spring break?
They're probably the same as when you buy cowboy boots in Nashville when you're at 2 a.m.
You're going to wear them once to Tootsie's, and you're never going to see them again.
Oh, man, your feet are going to hurt for a week, and you're going to be like, they're going to be in the closet folded over flat cowboy boots.
It like permanently misshapens your toes. I mean, you got spears for feet for the rest of your life. Yeah, you're not doing that. You got boogie boards, maybe once, and for a total of, I don't know, 5 minutes cumulative over the time of spring break. You spend more time chasing it down the beach than you do actually using it. And those and the little skim boards, I would say probably 1 million skim boards or skim, whatever you call those things, have been sold. And I would probably say that is equal to 700,000 broken collarbones for adult males.
Yeah.
Trying to relive their or broken wrists for the young kids. It's just like they got a real thing going down there, man. It probably costs like $1 to make, and they're selling for like $25, and then they probably go back. Then they probably leave them all on the beach. They probably go back. They probably like go sweep the beach every Sunday after checkout, and probably get back 80% of their inventory. Give it a good wipe down, a little bit of the sex wax, wipe it down, and then you're ready to go again.
Yeah. And if by chance the founder of Big Johnson T-shirts is listening, give us a holler, man. We'd love to have you in the cast. See what you're up to.
That's right. You never know, man. It's always great to check in with some of the most legendary entrepreneurs of our time. We'll get rolling today, and I would say if it's your first time tuning in, welcome, but you've just got a big fat welcome for the intro of the show. You know what? I'm not even gonna do an intro today. We're gonna walk right into it.
Yeah,
if you want the standard intro, either take a look at the back of Brad Kimleski's shirt or that he sent us, or just go back to the other 772 episodes. But it's May 30th, 2024. Welcome aboard, everybody. You listen to the Crushing Iron podcast.
I think you're skipping it.
What? That's not the intro. That's just like that's just kind of keeping us on task, right? The day is May 30th, and the podcast is 773.
Oh, okay.
My standard intro. Yeah, I want to at least keep that going.
I think what I'm going to do is, like, when you start the intro, I'm going to play a different music thing underneath it from now on. How's that sound?
Can you play some like low key? I don't know, where was I? Oh, I went and swam yesterday, and got my first. My annual long course 50-meter pool ass whooping handed to me yesterday. Like you get there and you take like 9 strokes, and you're like, why am I not finished yet? You look up your head and it feels like you've got to swim across a lake to get there. And I'm getting down and I'm getting finished. I finished my swim, head to the locker room, and what's on but Days of Our Lives soap opera. And I was like, that is the cue to every kid's summer, was their introduction of being home when their parents were watching General Hospital and Days of Our Lives because they weren't at school. That was like the intro to summer. And so if you could play like some real low key, daytime soap opera music as the background, I think that would fit perfectly.
I'll do that. I'll find it. Man, those were the simple days, right?
Saying the hourglass. This is podcast 773.
That was the simple times, man, because it kind of just like grated at you under the surface, and you're kind of thinking, man, there's really nothing to do right now.
Nothing to do.
But you got to figure it out, right? Now you got scam texts coming in, and you got people emailing you and shit all over the place. It's about like trying to get rid of clutter. Back then, there was just no clutter. There was just Days of Our Lives. And you'd sit on a shag carpet and soak it in.
There's nothing more infuriating than a parent who hears a kid say, "There's nothing to do." And, oh my God. Anyway, we'll go back on topic today. Or we'll give you the topic. We'll go short and sweet today. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast we put out yesterday, and then gave Coach CJ a good listen to on his interview with Mike. We'll have another one today attached to this podcast. We'll have C26 coach Nikki Leo, who has just got a great story, great athlete, great coach. So make sure you stay tuned in here to the end of the episode, and we'll tag that on to the end and give her a listen. Awesome, just an awesome person and an amazing coach too. But I was listening to a podcast yesterday, a short and sweet one, and they were talking about burnout. They were talking about stress. They were talking about, if you're some people are finishers, right? Some people like to close the deal. Some people are starters, but never get anything finished. They were talking about leveraging strengths and weaknesses. But anyway, towards the end of the podcast, they laid down this quote that I just thought was just very simple, but very applicable to training. And it says this: the magic you're looking for is in the work that you're avoiding. And I mean, listen, there's 500 ways we could go with that, but I found it incredibly, because listen, and I think that goes with training and it goes with life, in that most of us we're searching for a breakthrough, right? No matter what goal you have, you're still asking yourself to break through, whether it's breakthrough and have confidence, breakthrough and be more consistent, breakthrough a time barrier, breakthrough fear. But what usually pauses us or causes us to kind of stumble along the way, or maybe even never even get there, is the fact that we don't do the work and we avoid it, right? We're terrible at hills. We can't do hilly races. What do? Avoid hills. We're terrible swimmers. We can't swim. What do? Avoid actual like lake, ocean, open water swims. We can't handle hot races. We just crumble in the heat. We can't do them. What do? We avoid that. And while we avoid that, we totally miss the magic of accomplishing something that we were afraid of. Or and because a lot of times, like the magic is in the work, is in showing yourself that you're committed, showing yourself you can be consistent, showing yourself that you can stay, dedicated for a long period of time. And we do. We oftentimes, and we see this all the time as coaches too, right? And probably, I'm sure within ourselves, I know I do, is that we have these goals and we're looking for this spark or this magic or we're looking for something. But at this first sign of an obstacle, we immediately change course. And a lot of times it's just you veering in the total it's like doing a big U-turn away from the magic that you're looking for. And again, it could be weight loss, it could be general health and fitness, and I'm not saying a slip up is a U-turn, but a lot of times we cannot get over that obstacle that ultimately has, like, if you're going down the training road, you're going through life, or you've got goals and you're almost here and you hit that one last wall and all you see is bricks. All you see is one big boulder, or you can't, or a heavily treed forest, and you just can't see any way to get through it. You can't see anything on the other side. And if you took like the aerial view, what you would see is the magic that you're looking for, that you just had to go through it one more time, and there it is. But so many of us turn right back around. We've had it. We can't do it. This isn't worth it. but we don't really know that's not worth it because we haven't done the stuff to make it worthwhile. And I think that goes with training. I think it goes with, because we've been talking a lot recently about confidence and feeling secure in your training and your ability to do races. And I think a lot of people fail to build that confidence through day-to-day work. You don't just wake up and become confident. You don't just wake up and feel like, you know what, I got this under control. I can do this. I don't know what race day is going to give me, but I damn well know that I'm going to put the work in. That takes momentum. It's not something that you kind of get every other day. It takes momentum. That takes doing something daily. And so again, when I say it again, like the magic that you've been looking for is in the work that you've been avoiding. Mm-hmm. And I think that, you know, because to have something magical or to get something, maybe it's a project with work, maybe it's something around the house, maybe it's a new business endeavor, maybe it's a new relationship, maybe it's something. A lot of times I think we avoid things like that because we do know that the ask is going to be great, but the reward is going to be greater. And kind of getting over that hump and convincing ourselves to kind of go the extra mile and do the extra work and make the extra sacrifice is something that we know will be rewarded on, but it's those minute-to-minute decisions where we cut a workout short or we just skip it or we rationalize with ourselves that it's just one, right? And just one becomes just 20 or just 30. And then there's next year. And then there's next year to that. And then maybe I'll just run. And maybe I'll just ride. And then the next thing you do, you're sedentary, you're not doing anything 5 years later, and all your hopes and dreams have vanished, and now you're starting all over again.
Mm. Yeah, man. You know, it's almost like you talk about the cycle of change. And I go through that all the time. I mean, every year it's, okay, I'm signing up for another Ironman every year, last 10 years, 11 now. And you're like, okay, you kind of look in the mirror and say, man, you're a long ways off again. And when I think of the cycle of change in me, it's sort of like you kind of like, okay, I'm starting. And you just hit something that fires you up or whatever, and then you get going and you start doing it, and you feel great in the beginning. And we were actually talking about this yesterday, and one of the analogies I use is sort of as a diet. A lot of people go on diets, and then the first couple of days are like, yes, I am money in the bank now. This is my new life. And then after about 3 or 4 days, something goes on in your body, and it starts feeling like, holy shit, I don't feel as great as I did the first 2 days, you know? And then it gets hard. It gets hard. And one of my favorite sort of theories about things is that if we can just remember that when something gets really hard, you know, whether it's training, you know, and you get to a level where you're just trying to fight through something to get to the next level, we got to remember that usually breakthroughs are preceded by something that seems very, very hard, like in your process. So the hardest part of your process is right about when you're going to make a breakthrough. And if you can just stay with it through it, that's when you can start noticing stuff. And I find that very like common. I mean, almost every single time I'll try to do something new, and it just is like, it's kind of exciting in the beginning, and you start doing it and it feels good and you're mentally there. And then all of a sudden, oh shit, you know, you got to push through another, you know, part of this to get to that next level. And I've seen it. I think a lot of it for me comes back to, because one of my commitments this year is to really take the bike seriously, because we can talk about it until we're blue in the face, and even sometimes I won't commit to that. But getting off the bike in a state of mind, in a physical state where you can actually run. It doesn't really matter how much I run until I can get my bike really to a place where I can feel good. So I just started biking, you know, and I've done things like not go crazy, but just start. I'm really looking for ways to enjoy the bike. And that's what I encourage my athletes all the time, is to, whatever you're trying to do, and if it's something that's hard or sucks or whatever, it gets harder, try to figure out a little game or a little fun within it. Because if you can like get to a point where you're having fun and you're looking forward to it, to me, that's the whole solution. So if you're looking to get better, it's just it's that patience piece. And along the way, it's sort of like, I forgot what we were just talking about, but it's kind of like you can't expect the end before you get through the middle. And even when you get through it and get to the end, sometimes you have to find a new beginning. You know, it's always looking for something to kind of keep that spark alive. And I think that if we just keep drudging through stuff and hoping for something better, I mean, it's very difficult to actually step back and see it. So that's the thing with with cycling right now. It's just kind of, I'm doing it in a fun way and just enjoying it. And I'm finding new routes and just playing around with things. I like to kind of, especially when I run too, it's just, I look for like landmarks and benchmarks and stuff like that and say, okay, I feel a little bit better today than I did about 2 weeks ago getting to this landmark. And just be able to recognize progress, I think, is a huge part of this.
Well, the only way to achieve progress is through patience, and I think
so
that's
hard,
where
man.
people. What's that?
Yeah, no, it's hard too.
Yeah, and that's why it's so hard, right? It's because we oftentimes can see a huge win months and months down the road. Like it could be a race, it could be a work project, could be something, a house project, whatever it is. But a lot of times we'll shortcut it and accept a smaller win that we try to convince ourselves is worth the same as the big win. And that comes with sacrifice, right? You don't get that same magic. You're trying to tell yourself it does. And then guess what? You feel 2 or 3 weeks later, maybe not remorse, but you feel regret. This wasn't the right call. I should have stayed patient. I should have stuck with it. Even, because I was having this phone call on the way to the podcast this morning. And I was talking with an athlete about just setting overall movement goals, and that the way that most people are now is that we've never been more sedentary, right? You can work from home. And I noticed this with me specifically. I've had to make in order to lose weight, even if I'm training 9-10 hours a week, I have to make like a real conscious effort to cut weight. And if I look at myself out of those 9 hours of the week, I'm like, how much am I really moving? You're behind your desk, you're behind a computer, right? Everything you do these days can be either done for you or brought to you. All right. You can have somebody cut your grass. You can have somebody shop your groceries. You can have somebody go to the store and bring your stuff here. You can have Amazon drop it off, right? And everything is catered to us now. So like we don't have to be patient anymore. We can settle. That's good enough. And I can get it now. But you go back 10, 15 years ago about like you would have to really even think about like the as great as the internet is, how it also and I think it's great you can see things, but think about how the wonder and the suspense that you had as a kid about going to see something for the first time, right? You could see it in a book, right? You could maybe read about it, but the internet wasn't, splattered with pictures of these, famous landmarks or beaches or oceans or whatever it is. You just had to wait. You'd be patient. So the suspense would build and you get impatient. I wish we could just go today. We got to wait 2 or 3 more months to go do this. And you get there and it's unbelievable. And you probably rarely ever had that. God, this is definitely not what I pictured, right? This is so disappointing, right? Which you get a lot now. The internet made it look so great. This is just really disappointing. You go to a restaurant you want to go to for the reviews are like, this is not the meal that I was expecting. We've got all these false expectations and media and visuals that the imagination and the wonder and the suspense that, again, maybe not super comfortable to deal with, right? And requires an enormous amount of patience, right? But the reward at the end was just, I think, totally different than before, like it is now. And I think you see the same thing with training and with racing and with how we want things so now are willing to give up long-term, success for, short-term sacrifice or, not even sacrifice, just short-term shortcuts, right? We'd rather make 4 or 5 really short trips that we don't get much at, but we can at least get them done than make one long journey towards something that's incredible. And that's because we avoid it. We avoid being patient. We avoid the work that needs to be done, right? We gravitate towards the stuff that's easy, the stuff that's comfortable. And that's just not it's not how we get better. It's not how we are better. Not just as athletes, but as humans. Like, as we avoid the things that take just a little bit extra effort, a little bit extra attention to detail, right? Because frankly, we've just gotten very lazy as a species because everyone will do it for us, or we can just go buy it, or it'll just happen tomorrow, or I really don't need it, right? I've always like marveled at there's this guy 5 or 6 houses down from us that think's been building this Jeep since we moved in, like just building it from scratch. And first off, like, that stuff is so over my head, I couldn't even imagine doing something like that. I don't even have the patience to build like a 3-year and under Lego set with my kid. So, but to one, have the patience for that, but then to two, to also picture like what that guy is going to feel like the first time he pulls it out of his driveway and takes it for a drive down the highway. I mean, unbelievable. But the patience and the persistence to not be like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to send it to the body shop and let them finish off like this last year of work for me. Like, to me, that is, one, admirable and like just incredibly respectful. But that person is really after that, doing it themselves, the added value you get from doing it yourself, even though it takes a lot more work, right? Even though it takes extra effort to do it yourself, it's always more, you feel better when it's done. It may not be the most fun thing, right? But it's so much more, you take more pride in it. And it's not always easy, and things aren't easy in life. Things are really, really hard. But I think they're just different levels of hard now because we've gotten so soft in what our expectation of difficult really is. And I think that we need reminders that things are hard, that life is hard, training is hard. Guess what, guys? This stuff's supposed to be hard. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be difficult. And I think we look so much for things that come easy that even the first sign of difficulty, we turn and run, or we turn and avoid. And I just had my calf was like a little bit discomfort today, so I bagged it. I just called it in. Like, no, take a minute to walk and figure it out, and maybe just walk for 30 minutes. Maybe that's the case, right? And you'll never hear us talk about training through pain for injury, but I think it does come a point. Like, we were talking a little bit yesterday before the podcast. You and I were talking about nutrition and fueling and kind of our views on it and where we've been and where we've come from and maybe where we are now. And I just kind of joked and I said, I said, it's funny because, if you and I got dropped, 5 miles, 6 miles in the middle of the ocean and we had to make it to shore or we'd be stuck there, both you and I would make it to shore. We just would. I think most people would. You'd find a way to make it to shore. What we wouldn't do after a mile and a half is look at each other and be like, dude, yeah, Mike, you got any gel on you? Like, I don't know that I can make it another mile and a half to shore without any gel. I think I need a couple of gels. I'm having a sugar crash. I think I need some gel. No, not even, like, you wouldn't even think about it. It wouldn't even be on your radar. And I'll just be totally honest. I don't believe your body would even feel it. You could have not eaten for like a day or two, and I guarantee you your body is just going to be like, you know what? We're getting it done today. You got to make it ashore, right? Fight or flight. You're not going to just stop and be like, you know what? I guess this is the end of the podcast, Mike. This is the end of you and I. We don't have any Martin gels on us. I don't think we're going to make it any farther. This is it. We're done. And I think that we come so enamored with things that we feel like we have to have in order to make it work, that at the simplest, the level of satisfaction, the level of I think how you feel proud about yourself, and the level of the level of just ultimate satisfaction you get from persevering and completing something that you put every single ounce of effort into it, is the most rewarding thing that you can have in life. And I don't think that comes with shortcuts, right? Because you never know what it feels like. And I totally agree that it takes so much more patience than anything else to just see it through. Just see it through. It takes and it's funny, right? Because the closer you get, the more impatient you become, right? I used this analogy the other day, and I know this is gonna make me sound like the smartest guy in the world, but I said it's funny because when you go on, I was talking about going on road trips, and I was like, for me on a road trip, as you well know, like stopping to pee is not me. It's like we only do that when we stop for gas. But you can have to pee for 2 hours, and you're fine holding it. But as soon as you pull in that gas station, you can barely walk. As soon as you pull in the gas station, you're like in the urinals 50 feet away. You're like walking in with your legs crossed like sideways because you can't hold it any longer. But I guarantee you, if that you hadn't have stopped, you wouldn't have felt that way. It's always like the closer we get to something, the better it, like the more impatient we get. Sitting in a traffic jam, it's going to be, 7 miles. The first 6 miles, you're like, all right, this is what it is. But that last mile, you're ready to climb out the window and like get arrested for road rage because you're so close to the end, you can taste it. And I think the closer people get to kind of realizing something, the quicker they are to turn around, because they've either had to be patient for so long, or I also think some people are scared of what's going to be on the other side, and then what's going to be next, and what needs to transform then. And I think it takes an enormous amount of patience, but I think the reward makes it that much greater.
Yeah, as you were talking about patience there.
You need to go pee?
No, but I did have a nightmare about that ocean drop.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And it wasn't about swimming 5 miles. It was about what I had to traverse to get there. But anyway, yeah, I was thinking about patience, and I agree. And it's like very difficult, but I was kind of like, it really just sort of occurred to me that, really what patience, if you can't enjoy the process, you're kind of fucked, because patience to me, I think is all often confused with being able to be in the moment. I mean, if like the whole thing is, because you were talking about that guy in the car, and the weirdest thing I thought was when you said when he finally gets that done, drives it out of the driveway. You imagine that feeling? And my first thought was, yeah, that wasn't as special as I thought it was going to be. And to me, that's kind of what a race can be sometimes. It feels great to cross that finish line, don't get me wrong, but if that's it, I mean, that guy is just all about figuring out how to do stuff and, enjoying the idea that he's building something. And I think that that's what we got to be really grounded in, because I've tried it, the first few Ironman, even it's always about the race. Coach, let's talk about the race. I was like, it's 2 months from now. Just keep working and figure out a way to enjoy what you're doing today and feel good and keep an eye on progress and look at strength. And it's so hard because we talk about accumulated fatigue all the time. Some days you feel great. The other days you think you feel great and you feel like shit or whatever. And it's really difficult to recognize progress. And yeah, the patience piece is so important. And in that piece, I think because it's all you got is right now. You can't be thinking about a race. I know it sounds ridiculous to say that, but you know what I'm saying. You can't be obsessed with that, because I don't know. I've just been through so many, and there's nothing like the red carpet thing, no matter how shitty your race was or whatever, or how great it was. But then after that, you got to stand in the mirror the next day, it's usually 3 days later, and go, uh-oh, what am I going to do now? Because my goal is gone or whatever. And it's such an ethereal goal to feel good. You know what I mean? Like just be happy and feel good and stuff like that is really hard to wrap your brain around sometimes. But I think people who can do that just kind of go through, they just can, you've talked about it many times. Like there's so many athletes you do that they just make this part of their life, not part of like something that they have to do in order to go do a race. Because I think when you get your mind in that spot, you're in trouble. It's just sort of like, how does this fit into making me a better person, feel better? And that's why I'm such a big proponent of being in touch with how you feel. And there's some days you don't have it, and other days you really shouldn't even be screwing around with it. Depending on, it's like you mentioned, the little aches and pains and things like that. I think that's just all part of the process. But if you're completely exhausted and you're going to go out and try and hammer, this goes back to our last podcast, actually. If you're going to go do a stressful thing when you're really got nothing, you might want to regroup and think about that, and either, taking a day to relax or just keeping it super soothing. I don't know. I just like to boil it. I mean, the best accomplishments happen today in the long run. And if you just keep, it's always day one kind of a thing. And it's day one to go seize.
It's day one to go seize. I like that. And maybe we can end it there, because one thing you said, I was like going through my memory Rolodex, and I think we have a few podcasts about it, about how the expectations people put on these races and what it's going to do to them, how the red carpet's going to feel, how their name being called. I'm now an Ironman, and why you see this like disastrous level of depression and unmotivation after these big races. The race didn't do it to you. Your expectation of what the race would do for you is why you've fallen so hard.
That's good. Yeah, it's true.
And like I go back and I'm like, man, and I was trying to think, right, of races that I felt like at the end, or even my performance, like lived up to the bill of like the hype and the expectation, and I can't even think of one. At like the end, right?
This is more of a relief to me.
It's a more freaking relief to me. My two races that stick out to me the most really had nothing to do with the race, but more to do with the build-up. And one of the two most proudest races. One, the last year you and I did Louisville together, and I was more grateful at the start, right, of just everything I had gone through and been through, and to make it there. And the other one was when we did Wisconsin, and it was like 7 weeks after Hayden was born, and it was just getting to the start line. And the things I had to traverse and overcome and deal with and navigate, and just to get there. And that's what I was the most proud of, not the result. And I think that when the result doesn't make you anything. It's just a time on a clock. There's a time on a clock. It's it. It's what's the training, and I guess I should rephrase. And it's not even the training that turns you into who you are. It's your decision to do the training is what makes you who you are. The interval workout, or a long bike, or an open water swim, like those physically don't change you mentally. Your decision and persistence and motivation and resiliency and your ability to look fear in the eyes and do it anyway, to seize the moment, well, that's what changes you. Not the pace, not the power profile, not the new FTP, not the 5K, PR. It's the decisions, right? Even the decisions within that race to work harder and not give up. It's painful. Everything's telling me to slow down, but I'm going to keep moving forward. Damn it, I'm not stopping. That's what changes you. That's what ticks off like a positive impact and experience in your mind and in your body. And that's what sticks with you.
Yeah, especially when you're not expecting, or you're expecting more, it's not going like you expected it.
Yep.
That's the connection in the brain, right?
Yeah. And it's just, I think that we can get, not everyone, but many of us, we can get so easily deterred by the work that we fail to kind of recognize the importance and the decision to do the work, or to work around the work, or to figure it out. And we put way too much emphasis on exact prescription and exactly doing the workout. And like I said about, having fun and doing things you enjoy. Like an athlete earlier today, hey, I've got a bike on some of the schedule, but I've only got time for one. What should I do? I said, which one do you want to do? Well, I generally love to bike. Okay, go bike. Like, enough said, done. Right? It's not like, oh, well, your swim needs to, your swim needs some work. Let's go swim today. And you're like, that's not, he's already obviously under some pressure to get one done. Why make it the one that he, doesn't like, and there's a time and place for that. So again, like I think as we close, look at your life, look at your schedule, look at your training, look at your races, look at the things that scare you. See those through, because again, it's not the, we always talk about racing and Ironman and long course stuff as graduation day. And like nobody even remembers your graduation day. I mean, you could walk across the stage, you get a diploma. I wouldn't know it in graduate college. So, but you're done. 0. That's it. And especially if you're a person with like your last name that ends with like a Z, you had to sit there and wait for 6 hours and excruciating to probably listen to some speaker you didn't want to listen to for your name to be called, just so you can get the hell out of there and go party. That's it. And all you to remember are the friends you made along the way, the experiences that you had, and what's next. That's it. And that's what races are, right? Is everything you do prepares you for what's next, or doesn't prepare you for what's next. And again, I think the growth, the overemphasis on physical growth and faster and fit or whatever it is, like those come, but I don't think we emphasize enough the growth that we can achieve mentally and emotionally by just the simple decisions that we make to get the work done. And in its simplest form, that is where I think the highest level of satisfaction comes from, is just the accomplishment of work and just getting it done.
Mm. Yeah. And that translates into workouts. I've seen it many, many times. I just didn't have it. I didn't feel like it. I was going to quit. And then I've followed through and I got it done. And that's where people ask, am I going to be ready for the race? Well, if you've got those moments in your training all the time, or not all the time, but just if you can get through those moments, that's how you know.
Yep.
It's not all about, perfect pace and perfect workouts all the time. It's those workouts. Can you go deep even when it's not going your way? That's how you get better.
And that's where you dig deep. Yeah. I think some of the things where I've learned the most about myself have actually been at run camp.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Unknown and crazy distance. A lot of times, like your video, like you did, like totally alone with nobody else but your thoughts, and like choosing to run when you really could walk. Nobody else is around. Nobody's going to know. This result isn't going to show up in an iron track. Like those are the decisions that stick with you. And when you create momentum with those, the likelihood of you continuing to make those good decisions increases. And everything we're doing is momentum. You're either creating good momentum or bad momentum. So when you look at your training and you look at the opportunities you have, and you look at a race, don't be impatient. And also, if it's going to take you a year and a half to get ready for a full Ironman, don't sign up for one in 8 weeks just to try to get it out of the way. It's not going to go well. And we see it all the time this time of year. Hey, I'm 12 weeks out from this race. Can you help me? What have you done? Well, not much. I would highly recommend you transferring or doing something different, or downgrade to 70.3. Because what do you really get besides a very expensive medal of shortcutting yourself, rushing through something to not live up to your potential? It's a very expensive medal just to say you did it. And deep down, you didn't do it as well as you could have. You didn't prepare like you should have. But we don't want to wait another year. We want to do it now. But what's the trade-off, right? Because again, when you get into that habit of taking shortcuts, you're less likely to take the long way to get there. So next year, what are you more than likely going to do? I did it last year on that 12 weeks. I can do it again. Yeah, let's do it. Let's be mediocre and not live up to potential again next year. That's going to set us up for success for life. No, make a fucking change. Play the long game. Be your best. Don't be fine with being mediocre. Don't be fine with being fine. Invest in being great, and that takes a long period of time. It's just not something you get, taking shortcuts overnight.
True.
That's all I got.
All right.
That's all I got. Stay tuned for Coach Nikki Leo. As always, go to our podcast, go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. And you can peruse the available camps and coaches we have on there. And as always, if you need anything from Mike, he is available. Mike at c26triathlon.com. If you need anything from me specifically, Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right, buddy. Have a great weekend, man.
Get money.
All right.
See you, dude.
See ya. And welcome, Coach Nikki. How you doing over there? Are you training this morning, or are you finding your windows?
Today I am finding the windows, which is actually the story of my life, right? When you try to fit in all this stuff. But I'm doing well. Working a lot, coaching some, and trying to train for an Ironman.
Which one are you doing again?
I am doing the unofficial team race of Lake Placid.
Oh, yeah, that's very unofficial.
It is very unofficial, but I think there's 6 or 7 of us doing it up there.
Yeah, that sounds like a Snell creation or something. Is that true?
It was because it was supposed to be the last year for it.
Yeah.
And I said, there's no way I would ever do Lake Placid. Are you insane? And it's supposed to be the last year, and here we are. They just renewed it for another 3 years.
Oh, that's good. So I can still do it. I didn't like the pressure of that. And then, Snell, he always makes every race he does like an unofficial team race. Yeah. He does,
but that's why everybody loves him, because he is a good individual to be around race week. He's just a good individual all around, but definitely during race week.
He's a calming force.
He is in a weird
he makes me
analytical way.
Weird analytical way. That's probably why he makes me nervous. All right. So how's coaching going for you? What do you love about it?
Oh, what do I love? So I had my first 2 athletes did Ironman Texas. And it was my very first experience of being on the other side of it and watching and tracking them and feeling all those emotions of wanting them to succeed and knowing that they're able to succeed, but knowing that I have no control whatsoever what the day's going to bring them. And just praying then that all the conversations that we had, that they remember those things that we talked about and that they were strong enough to do it. It's a very different aspect of the sport. I've done, a little bit of coaching in the past, but it's never been with, it's because what I do with my regular job, but this is all in, right? And it's exciting. It's nerve-wracking. You're a bit of a therapist. I have found that. You're a jack of all trades, but I love it. I absolutely love it. Like I love the sport. So I'm hoping that we get even busier and that more people seek us out, because I think we've got a great lineup of people that can help all kinds of athletes out there.
Yeah, that is something to go through that experience when you're kind of helpless and hoping. And, you find yourself wanting to send them texts or get a hold of somebody that can talk to them just to see how they're doing and stuff like that.
So I did that. That's how bad I was. I had two people on the ground. I had actually planned on surprising my athletes. I was going to fly down there to Texas.
Oh.
And then life got in the way, and I couldn't be away from home. I had to care for my husband. And so I found two people that were going to be there, and I made sure that they were my voice to the athletes as much as possible. I was really looking forward to that because, the whole team was down there as well. So
Yeah,
it would
I
be
was
a
there.
great day. And it
I
was
could
a
have been
great
on the
day.
ground
Both the
for you.
athletes finished. Both of them finished. So they were awesome.
That's great. What were you telling? I could have been your person on the ground. What were you telling them? Run faster? Tell them to run faster.
Yeah, right.
That's always good.
Be patient on the bike. That bike course is probably one of the hardest. Even though it's straight out and back pretty much, the Hardy is hardcore. The wind is just insane. And until you've done that race, I don't think you can explain it to anybody. The run is the best run in Ironman, in my opinion. So the gals that I had, both of them very high achieving athletes. So what I really needed for them to do that day was to stay within themselves. Don't look around and see how other people are doing. No self-comparison, just all within yourself, because both of them had a little bit of self-doubt. So that was my main goal in giving them a program, and making sure that their program supported that, making sure they were successful. Each day when they did a workout, as hard as Ironman training is, it's good to find at least one success in there every day.
Right. Yeah. So you kind of mentioned what you do normally, and how does that? Obviously, you're a very good listener and compassionate with athletes. And how do you think that all that sort of dovetails into coaching triathlon?
Oh,
I mean,
that is what that. Yeah. If you want to be a good coach, you have to be about people. I mean, coaching is a people business. What I do for a living, I work in human resources, so it's a human business, right? We always say people are not gray, or people aren't black and white. They're actually very gray, and they're different every single day. And so that means that I have to adjust to that. And it's hard. It's hard sometimes. In coaching, I think the one thing that I've found the hardest is trying to get an athlete to believe in themselves, and they just don't. You can do this hard workout if you do this, and this. So it's so much easier to say it than to do it. And now I understand. I understand my relationship with my coach a little bit better. How you can go crazy coaching. People have really high expectations, and you want to be successful,
Right. Yeah. So,
but I think listening is the key. Listening is key.
Yeah. So in general, how would you describe, I'm sure it's always a work in progress and fluid, but how would you kind of describe your general coaching philosophy? Is it based on yourself as an athlete and how you go about your things, or do you kind of step back and take a different approach?
Great question. No, I step back and I take the approach that I think is best for that individual person as I get to know them. I think most triathletes have a certain kind of personality, which is a lot like my personality. However, everyone's definition of success is different. So I think what I try to do is find or ask or to discover with my athletes, what is your definition of success? What does that look like for you? And what can I do to make you see that success every day? Again, so they stay motivated to train. And that's hard to do. You've got, it's a lot of sitting back and taking in a bunch of different angles. Maybe they're their worst enemy, or maybe they're very, very knowledgeable and they want to try everything, a lot like some of the pros do. The comparison factor, there's all these things that come into the story of it. But I always, always try to treat people as individuals, because that's what they are. Everyone's very different, motivated by different things.
Very true. So
and it depends on where they're at in their journey too. When I first started, it was about being on the podium. It was about being as fast as I could possibly be. As I get older, now it's about having gratitude to have the body that still wants to race and the mind that wants to race, and then trying to take care of that body as I age. I mean, it completely changes the focus the longer you do it.
Interesting. So along that lines, you've been a C26 athlete for quite a while, and what is one of the biggest lessons you've learned being trained by the C26 sort of philosophy, I guess?
Well, let me start by saying, and everybody that knows me knows I'm going to say this, C26 changed my life. C26, family. There are people that I've never met on this team that I'm closer to than people that I interact with daily. The community is a significant part of my life, and it's changed my opinion on myself. There's been a lot of soul searching. This team's really helped me do that. But the one thing that I will tell you that C26 gave me that nobody else has given me was the ability to be proud of myself. I've not ever said that in my whole entire life, that I was ever proud of myself or proud of anything that I've ever done until C26. And this community, that's what they support. They want you to be just as proud of yourself as they are of you. And that's life-changing. That's life-changing. For me, it was life-changing. So that's what I hope my athletes get out of being part of this family. It takes time. You have to have a lot of trust. And it's also, I think, before C26, it was the first time I truly handed myself over to a coach to just totally be at his disposal, here, shape me, mold me however you want. I don't think I did that in the past. I always kept this boundary up. With C26, there's no boundaries anymore.
Man, I love that, because, we started the podcast and we believed in that, and we hear that a lot, that type of thing. And I feel like, we have, podium athletes, we have beginners, everyone across the board. And I think that's really true. I mean, it's sort of this supportive community that really isn't out to judge, and they just want, it's very comfortable, man. And I met you at camp, camps in the past. So you go into these things and then you almost see it immediately that there's something that people have, that they're all kind of looking for the same thing. And for whatever reason, it's kind of that connection. And that might be just a vague connection, but we're all kind of looking to find stuff like you were just talking about. And obviously you are an introspective, supportive, compassionate coach, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Related to what you were saying, I share something. I told Robbie this. We went to St. George. There was quite a few of us that went to St. George.
Unofficial team race. I know.
Race. But my husband and my son went with me, and it was the first time that they've been able to meet some of the people from the team. They had never met anybody. And one night, after we had all had dinner together, my husband said to me, I get it. And I'm like, what? And he goes, I get it now. And I go, what do you get? He goes, I get why you love this team. I get why you love these people. These are good people. These are people who love other people. They're not about themselves. It is very, very obvious. And he goes, and I can see why you would be drawn to them. You know, I understood it, but I didn't really understand it till now. And that's the exact same feeling that I had the very first time I went to camp. I'm like, I get it. I totally get it. You know, and I was a fish out of water. I am not an extrovert. I'm a very shy person. I'm not good with lots of people. And so that was a big step out of my comfort zone to come to run camp, but I did it. And here I am 5 years later. My whole life's just different.
Yeah, it's so great to hear that, you know, and I love how you explained it. And obviously you've come through that, and it's led you into being a coach now. And you're taking on athletes, and you've talked about your philosophy and everything like that. So what are some of the most rewarding parts of being a coach to you? I mean, you said you just had the Texas experience. I'm sure that had to be something.
Yeah, that was amazing. I think another part of it is the aha moments when you have an athlete who's been doing something and you know there's something they need a little bit of work on it, and you try to explain it 10 different ways. Yeah. And then you find the way that makes the difference for them. And they're like, oh my gosh, that makes total sense now. And you see it click. That's really cool. I also, honestly, I have an athlete that, I like it when they share things with me. So I feel like my job is to share things with them, to make them knowledgeable, to make them be a lifetime learner of the sport, so that when they do go into these races and or events or training, they have all the knowledge that they can, right? They have everything, all the resources right there, and they just need to pick the right one for the moment. But I had this athlete who, it sounds really silly, but he sent me a link to a Netflix documentary that I had not watched. And he said, this reminded me of you. You know, this guy is really special, and I want you to see this because this is how I see you. And that really meant a lot. You know, when they start reciprocating or mirroring that relationship, you know, then it becomes a partnership. There's just not a one-way track there. It's going both ways. And I like that. We were going through some family things during Texas, and my athletes reached out to me every day and asked me how we were doing and if we were needed anything. And so when they start reciprocating that care, it really means a lot. That and the aha moments, I think those are my favorite.
Yeah, well, I think it's real easy to forget that most people get into this sport with a bigger purpose, and they're using triathlon as the vehicle.
Totally.
And I love what you're saying, because it always, you know, it's always a driving force to think about going faster and being awesome and being on the podium or whatever. But then those, you know, for me, like that aha moment is exactly what you said, is just using it, it's just, you know, feeling good, being around people that are positive, and it's really a sort of a good supplement to your life. And yes, it sounds like that is probably the most important piece to you as far as a connective piece in the athlete world.
It totally is. That's the difference. So when I talk about C26, I'm not talking just about triathlon. I'm not talking about triathlon as a sport. That's part of C26. When I talk about C26, I'm talking about a community of people that are kind of all on the same brainwave, whether that's a crazy brainwave or not, because we like to do crazy things. It's people that get you. And I said that at camp one time. I was sitting at a table and I'm like, you know what's so amazing? This is the first time in my life I've sat at a table with people who get what I'm talking about. You know, the stories that you tell or the mishaps that you have or, taking a digger on a rock, in the river, and having a fat lip. Those are people that get it. And that's what C26 is. It's not just triathlon. It's not just running. It's an experience, it's a community, and you can share all of those things. So you have lots of aha moments, right? Not just about sport.
Exactly. Yeah. And that, obviously, that is super rewarding to me to hear that kind of thing, because, everyone gets into triathlon, and wherever you're at, there's probably a local group of triathletes, but you don't,
Oh, yeah.
You're excited about it usually in the beginning, or at least this is what I've found is, eventually you're like, I'm not really, clicking with, a lot of these people or whatever. And then it seems like that type of person ends up coming to C26, and it's almost like there's a hidden, hidden similarity or something that comes out. And I think that's just really cool. I mean, because I'm all about tri groups and everything, and I think people should all do it, but C26 is kind of both,
Right. Well, I live outside Boulder, the
Right.
Mecca of triathlon. There are tons of triathlon groups here. So many that, anybody that was new might be really intimidated to join and to want to do it. It would be really easy to be on any of those teams. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with those teams, but yes, I did not find what I was searching for, from myself or from the sport until I found C26. And then it changed for me. The sport, it became very much more, a lifestyle. It wasn't just, it is a hobby, but it's also a lifestyle. And the relationships that I formed as a result of it are some of the best relationships that I've had. And like I said, most of those are, I met you guys, over the podcast. That's how I knew you for 6 months before I got to meet you. And you just feel like you know who Mike and Robbie are, right?
I know. Yeah, I
you
know
just
that.
you just feel like that. And I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. And so it's cool when people meet me now and they go, oh yeah, you're Nikki Leo, and you did this and you did this and you did this. And I'm like, yeah, that's me, So it's, I like that. It kind of scares me too, because it opens you up to be judged, as a coach. But I just play with the idea that if I'm doing the best that I can, there's no reason why someone shouldn't succeed underneath me. Because that's the goal. That's the goal, whether it's to succeed at the sport or life. Under me, I hope that I'm able to shape them in some way, shape, or form, like you and Robbie have shaped all of us.
That's good stuff. I think we could probably wrap it up. And you got anything else you want to say to potential athletes, or how you like to work with athletes or anything like that?
No, what I will say is we have a line of really great coaches, great people who are all very, very different. And there is one of us out there for every single one of you. There are. We're a great team. We're a great family. And you don't have to see it to believe it. We live it. So check one of us out, check all of us out, because that's why we're here. All
right. Well, as always, it's great to talk to you. And when will I see you next?
I will see you at Tri Camp, I believe,
in June. Nashville?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
With
all those wonderful hills.
All the hills, and bringing a lot of coaches in, I think it sounds like. And
yes. Early morning swims, not my thing.
Yeah.
But I'll be there.
I'll be watching you from the deck.
There you go.
We'll see. All right. Well,
all right.
It was great talking to you, and I'm going to stop the recording here, but
okay.
We can hang on for a sec.